Welcome again to Till Death I Do with Vic and Sue, the podcast that asks, are you fighting fair with your spouse? My name is Vic. Alongside me is Sue, and together we are the Villanovas, and we got another good show for you guys today. Today's going to be one of those touchy subjects, every marriage has it, every marriage does it. If you with friends and you're saying that you guys don't bump, argue, whatever you want to call it, then
humps,
and lumps, then you're bugging.
You're chumps.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So let me ask you, Is it wrong to fight in a marriage?
No. I think actually it's very normal to fight in a marriage. It's kind of expected, In any kind of relationship, you're going to go through times of trial, times of disagreements. But no, I think it's a healthy way, if you do it the right way. It's very normal to have fights.
It's a form of communicating if it's done the right way. At least you're letting somebody know that, hey, that bothered me. Or, that comment wasn't appropriate.
At least for me in past relationships, it would start off something small and just grow into this huge, battle, and it kind of led nowhere, But if you know how to deal with conflict in a healthy way, you actually grow a lot. And you get to hear someone else's thoughts, someone else's opinions. Yeah. A lot of times it's us kind of either trying to persuade one another to see it from the other person's perspective, or trying to find a compromise, what's the middle ground here, Yeah. You are so far this way, I'm so far this way. How do we come together? And, So, but I think it's normal. I think people who say they never fight or, they never have arguments. I don't know how true that is unless they're just not even talking, That's
yeah, seriously.
They're not really engaging.
They don't even sleep in the same room or something, right?
Then of course you're not going to fight.
No, but let's really get into it. What do you think are the common things couples fight about?
Honestly, it's two people coming together, and you're talking about two individuals with two different minds, two different ways of doing things, two different ways of thinking, two different opinions, especially if they're very opinionated people,
Yeah.
You're not going to always agree on everything. Actually, you're probably not going to agree on most things, And then also I think it can come from just sometimes being in a bad mood or just,
bringing her work home with you.
Yeah, you just are triggered by something or, it's not even about that person, but you're just angry at life. It happens because you're there. You're the person that's there. And
you're kind of like the punching bag at times when you come back from a bad day of work or
and sometimes I'm like, it's one of them days kind of a situation.
Well,
and I just I'm in a fighty mood or whatever, I'm a little moody.
There you go. There you go. Which happens.
It does.
It happens. And when it happens, oh baby, But, I think what's great is that if you have that solid foundation, like we were talking back in prior episodes, I think if you know how to navigate through an argument, you can probably be successful and find out more things that you didn't know about your spouse that messed them up or that bothers you or something that you can improve for yourself. And that's why I think it's important to fight fair, because I think it's a way for me to know where I'm at, right? Where do I need to improve, or where do you need I should say some direction, some direction or correction. There's certain times I think where it's your spouse wants to just pick a fight too. I think there's times there you just I can see where a long day of work or a long day at home with the kids, which is work too, can lead it to be okay, I've been waiting all day for you. Where are you?
Yeah.
Where you at? And I could easily want to argue back and be petty about it and be like, what do you mean? I'm busting my tail You have no idea what I just went through. And instead of going and really discussing it, there are times I can be defensive and put the defense on. Mm-hmm. And then that's when the real battle begins, you know?
I think that some couples feel like there shouldn't be any conflict. Like conflict is automatically thought as bad. Something that like you shouldn't get into, you know, that a healthy relationship shouldn't have any kind of friction or conflict. But I think that's sometimes the only way to grow in a relationship. Like you were saying, to getting to know each other on a deeper level is being able to have that friction, but getting through it, you know, so that you can grow. And I think, it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah. I personally think it is healthy if it happens in a relationship, like, you know, having those occasional bumps. However, I do think it should be occasional. I think when arguments get excessive, then you have a bigger problem. Obviously we argue, you know, we do have our issues, but I don't think they're as excessive, you know, and we quickly resolve. We won't stay angry, you know, that there has to be rules. And I think that's where fighting fair comes in. You know, what does that look like?
The heart behind fair fighting is that you want to come together. You're fighting to come closer.
Yeah.
Not fighting to push each other apart. You know? And I think that's where you have to really examine yourself. Like, am I bringing this up because I want to understand and I want to get resolved and I want to compromise and come together? Or am I bringing this up because I'm angry and I want to push him away or I want to hurt him, you know? And I think that's how you really know if you're fighting fair, because you're giving each other a fair chance at getting resolved.
And I think of, like, you know, validation, you know, understanding why the argument started in the first place, right? Making sure that you understand who's in the wrong, why you're wrong, you know, because I think sometimes we can always just think it's not my fault, it's her, you know, or it's him. And I think a lot of people are very prideful in that area. And I think that's how a lot of the pettiness things started coming out. I know in the very beginning, I used to do the apology thing, you know.
You would be the one to avoid conflict by apologizing. And that used to drive me crazy because you wouldn't even necessarily acknowledge why I was upset, but it was mostly like, I'm sorry. Let's just like kind of move on. Let's sweep it under the rug.
No validation, just trying to get you shut. Yeah, I remember that.
And so it was kind of just like, so again, even though it's in the surface, it seemed very humble. It's a very much like, oh, you're taking the high route. And really what it was you were just trying to avoid having a discussion, having a fight, having a, you know, any kind of conflict.
And
it drove me crazy.
But to be fair, it wasn't that I was just trying to shut you up. It was just sometimes the first sorry wasn't good enough for you.
Well, because I would ask you, well, what are you apologizing for? And you could never.
Well, that's what it's a matter of, like, the validation, like validating why. You know, I think that's something I had learned early, because I was always trying to just like,
I get it. I'm wrong. I'm sorry. Yeah, like, let's move on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, do you get it? Like, do you really get why?
Yeah. And so I think that also for you, it kind of helped your stance, like communicating with me and understanding,
that's
like,
true.
what I need to hear to understand where you're coming from.
Right.
Not just be like, but what are you sorry for? Like,
yeah.
You know, like, I don't know anymore. You know, it's just like, I'm here. I just got home. I'm tired. You know, so I think that was where fighting fair really comes in the places like, you know your spouse. You know what triggers them. And
sometimes, but I think that also comes with conflict.
Right.
I think the reason we know our triggers so well, we know the buttons we push, is because we've had to go through conflict. We've had to, learn how to work through that. And the more that we work through it, the more we got to know each other and what those triggers are. You know, if we just stopped at the fight or just, kept going at it in the same way, we would have never learned what are the mines, so to speak, that we have to avoid so it's not a huge explosion, you know?
Yeah.
And there's a lot. I definitely wasn't good in the beginning about that. I think even like you said, communicating like my vulnerability, communicating like why I was upset, or even that I was upset. I think there were times I remember early in our marriage, you know, I just wasn't good at it. I was very prideful. I was very petty at times,
Please,
you know?
share. Continue.
Well, it would be like really immature things where you'd be like, are you mad at me? And I'm just like, no, I'm fine. No. And I'm like boiling inside. I'm like so mad at you. And you would ask me because I feel like you knew something was up.
Yeah, you can sense it. You know when your ladies
and I wanted you to sense it, but I don't know why. When you would ask me, I would just be like, "No, I'm good." But then I would do stuff like, you know, slam the door kind of hard, you know, or stomp around, or like do stuff, and you're like, "Are you okay?" Just like, yes, I'm fine. Like, why?
So does that count as petty?
I think it's petty. I think it's petty because it's childish, you know, like you literally seeing that I'm angry, seeing that I'm stomping around, you're asking me to open up to you as to what's going on, and I'm refusing it. You know what I mean? But I'm trying to like throw things your way to like let you know I'm mad without having to tell you I'm mad. And it's almost like setting you up in a way because I'm like, because you know I'm mad. And now I'm trying to make you guess why I'm mad.
And then for me, honestly, I'm one of those guys who just like I want to tune into the game.
It's true. It's
you
true.
know, so like I just wanted to know, hey, are you mad at me? Just I'm curious. I didn't expect an answer back. You know, I didn't expect you to like. You know,
you like just want to ask for the sake of asking.
Just you know,
and
just
I think that's
sure.
petty too. Like, because right? Like that's petty. Like, okay, I'm just gonna throw it out there.
Just want to make sure, you know, because I'm about to watch this game, and I don't want nothing to like.
You don't want any problems.
You
later?
know what I mean? I want to give me the smoke now because I don't want it later. And I think that's leading. You know, trying to make sure that.
Right.
No, but okay.
That was selfish.
Okay, maybe that's petty. that's being petty on my side. But what I do think is it does help it just come up to the top already. Like let's get it on. Let's just ding ding ding. You know, like let's do this because the game is coming.
No, see, and that was it's wrong because that's what you would do. You're like, okay, I got this much time and this much energy to put into it. Tell me what I did. This is what you would do. Tell me what I did. Let me apologize and we're done. You know?
Yeah.
And for me, my error was that I didn't want to tell you what was going on. I wanted you to like milk it.
Yeah. But I think
you would have to draw me out, ask me like a million questions just to get me to finally say like I'm hurt about something, you know? And it was just such a waste of time, and it was like this weird, awkward like dance, you know, around the real issue. And I think we both had to work at stopping those like dumb, wasteful, you know, just habits.
Those interactions too. Because I do believe I have to agree with you. Could have gotten over that such a long time ago. We could have moved on, had better night, you know, done some more amazing things, you know, instead of just being there grumpy with each other.
I know.
But I think that's important. I think that's why learning how to fight fair, learning how to pick your battles. I think learning how to fight fair means learning how to pick your battles, means being a listener. You know, being humble to the point where it's like, I take the time to hear you out. Yeah. Let me hear everything. I don't interrupt. At least I try not to. And then once she finishes, I don't just quickly react. I think about it. What can I say? Maybe there's a scripture I can think of, and how do I navigate? And then let me see. Boom. And then make sure that the apology is sincere. If you need to apologize. I think there's certain times where I remember I would
You weren't sincere. There were times you were not sincere.
Because I think,
You didn't think you were really wrong.
Yeah, and so I'm going to stand firm because I feel like...
I mean, you would still apologize, but it wasn't like you really
because
thought
because I think I had
You're
to
more
apologize.
like,
No.
I'm sorry that you're hurt.
Okay, yeah. Because
I'm sorry that you're in your mood.
But listen, and it's the truth. That's kind of like me trying to... I mean, at the end of the day, whatever caused your hurt...
Mm-hmm.
I'm apologizing for that, because I could tell at the moment, like, oh man, I'm sorry, my bad. There is something going on. I'm just not that kind of, I don't finesse it too well.
And that's what I think that was my frustration with that was that,
Sue wants a song.
I do.
Sue wants to, and then listen, that's okay. Maybe your wife,
the violence.
Your wife maybe wants you to be like that sinking ship to the end in the Titanic when they're like, yeah.
That's not it. I wanted to be understood. I wanted you to understand. And like you said, I wanted you to validate, not just that you were sorry. I wanted to know that you understood so you wouldn't do it again.
Totally. But I also wanted you to
just accept it.
No. I also didn't want my apologies to be this fake. Yeah. I didn't want it to be like, I'm sorry that you felt this way because of ABC, and I'm sorry that your feelings were hurt because I'm just not that scripted. I just couldn't do that. I felt like it would have been, my sorries would have been not sincere.
You were too quick to apologize.
Yeah, they're wrong. I know, because I was just trying to figure it out. And I think that's important, guys. I think it's important that you guys figure out each other. Right. It's a dance. It is a dance.
And that's why it is healthy to have conflict. Mm-hmm. Because it gives you that practice on like, okay, how did we not do it right? Mm-hmm. How can we be better at it the next time? What are the takeaways that we did good? What are the takeaways that we did bad?
Yeah.
Let's not do those again. Let's keep working at the things that will help us to resolve quicker or faster. And I feel like that's what we did. You worked on your apologies and hearing me out before you just threw a sorry there. Mm-hmm. I worked at identifying my feelings and being able to communicate that, not wait to build it up. I think that was my thing, mm-hmm. And it's like, what's so crazy about fighting and being petty, you don't get the results that you want, Mm-hmm. I remember you would come home. So you worked really far. We were living in Staten Island at the time. And you had
Shout out to Staten Island, New York, Gary.
And you had this crazy 2-hour commute or something to work.
To Long Island.
You took a bike, a boat, a bus,
ferries,
the train,
the LIRR train on top of that. And then rode another bike.
So I know you were coming home tired, and probably not wanting to give, But for me, being away from you for so long and then, not really getting to interact the whole day, I was looking forward, to you coming home and getting to spend time with you, getting to talk with you. So when you would come home and you were so tired and you didn't want to talk, you wanted to zone out, turn on the TV, watch sports or whatever, I remember there was times all I wanted was you to give me some attention, whether that was just physical or just emotional. I just wanted you to be present. I wanted you to, sometimes I just wanted a hug. I just wanted to feel like you missed me too, and instead of just asking for that, I would kind of wait around, see if you were going to acknowledge me, see if you're going to figure that out on your own. And then when you didn't, I would just get so mad. And then the night would progress and I would just get more mad and more mad. Next thing I know, I'm stomping around, slamming doors. And you're like, are you all right? And I'm just I'm fine, and then it would turn into this really ugly fight, where I'm just you know what? I don't even care. And you're like, what's your deal? And I'm like, well, you don't, and it just got really ugly to the point where I think there was a few nights, I think you just wanted to sleep on the couch or we would be in
I put myself
bedrooms.
In a doghouse.
Seriously, I'm not dealing with this.
I don't want to hear it.
And I remember one time just sitting in my bed, I think you were on the couch or something. And I'm like, this is so the opposite of what I wanted. Like, instead of getting you closer, somehow I pushed you even farther away.
Yeah.
And what I really wanted was for you to be close. And now you're like on the couch. You know?
Yeah.
I'm just like, gosh, that was so dumb, you know? And what's with me that I can't just say like, hey, can you turn off the TV for like a few minutes and just, can we talk? Can you hold me?
You know, what's funny though, hearing you now and thinking about that, I probably could have used a hug coming into the door. Like, like even if you probably would have initiated, that probably would have been helpful for me.
Exactly.
You know, because I was just beat and spent. Like, maybe a hug would have actually maybe...
The last thing you wanted to do was get into an argument.
You know? So I think that's a great...
I know.
That's a great, I guess, even lesson out there. Wives, probably you guys know what your man is going through. Maybe, like, if you need something, you gotta say something.
Yes.
Or even initiate something. Maybe it's not always just trying to, when is this man gonna learn? You know?
Right.
You know, maybe you gotta, like...
be the initiator and,
you know, like...
ask for what you need. Or just, yeah, like you said, just, if I wanted a hug, I should just come give you a hug.
Because I think it goes to show, like, I remember the first couple of weeks together, living together and everything like that, there were so many little things that I didn't know were going to annoy me. You know, certain things were annoying me.
Oh my gosh, you would like, that's not the knife you got to use for cutting chicken. What's wrong with you that you're using the wrong knife? I remember one time you like got on me about vacuuming the wrong way. Like, I'm not vacuuming in like stripes or whatever. I was just kind of going around.
There's a pattern here. You gotta vacuum and hit the quadrants, and you know what I'm saying?
Another petty fight.
Forget about it. She was very like salsa with it. It just didn't matter where she was going. Get out of here. It's crazy. Watch, you're gonna see how we fight fair right now.
Petty.
No.
Petty stuff. Maybe our viewers, tell us about a time, you know, comment in the comments. Tell us about a time you were petty, you know, share some stories. Like,
what's the pettiest argument you ever got involved in? We definitely want to hear, like, what's the most pettiest argument you had?
Yeah, being petty, I think, just comes from being prideful, you know, like you just want to hit them where it hurts.
True. You want to be one up. You want to come up with the better comeback. You want to come back.
Have the last word.
Oh, that last word. So important, right?
Oh my God.
It's like that checkmate move.
So many times you would like walk out of the room and then I would like follow you, like, because I wanted the last word. I'm like,
but I just hit her with a zinger. I just like gave her a nice little like pa-pang pang.
No, I don't even know.
Good stuff.
And then I'd storm off, and then I'd come back, and another thing. Like, so what are the things to avoid in a fight that would cause it to go in a petty route?
First of all, blame shifting. You know, it's because of you. Or, you know, it's if you would be better, you know.
If you were better at this, then I wouldn't have to be so petty, right?
Yeah.
Blame shifting for sure, because you're trying to avoid taking responsibility for your own part in whatever the conflict is, right? So, like you said, if it's like, well, if you weren't this way, then I wouldn't have to be this way. And that's never the case. We always have a choice to act and choose how we're going to respond to anything, you know? But I think also bringing up like the past, I think that's one thing. It's not going to go well, you know, if you're constantly bringing up the same stuff, you know, like, because then it's like you're fighting, like you said, you're adding on to the fight and you're bringing in things again and again and again, and now you're just adding on to the list. It's just gonna keep snowballing from there, you know. I think once something has been hashed out, then that's it.
Yeah,
you don't bring it back up, you know.
I think name calling is also something that's just like, I mean, and there's other ways to go about it, like, when are you gonna grow up, or when are you gonna learn how to do a dish, or when are you gonna learn how to, you know, fill in the blank. I think that's a form of just
you're so unloving, you're so prideful.
When you're gonna just get up and do something, you know, something like that. I think those are just another form of just name calling. I think and I think that's where it gets dirty. That's when fighting gets dirty, because now you're trying to one-up someone, trying to get that last blow in.
Even just the idea of name-calling is, on some level, abusive. Because you want to cause hurt.
Yeah.
Why would I call you a name unless I'm trying to hurt you? You know?
Yeah.
And at that point, it's like, what are you fighting for anyway?
Yeah.
What's the point behind the fight? I think that's what you always have to come back to. Like, why are we in this conflict right now?
Feelings get hurt that way.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Sure.
And then they could have that bitterness comes in. And I think that's what happens when you have all these unresolved arguments. If you go to sleep, again, like if you go on to bed without apologizing or without like resolving, without like making up.
I don't even know how you can go to sleep. If I
mean, there's couples out there who've been fighting. They're still having the same fight.
Yeah.
For like weeks, and they're still having the same
fight. Years.
You know?
For real. Yeah.
You know, and again, guys, if you're in that level, if you're arguing like that with your spouse, you guys need to like take a break, bring in a referee. You know, you need to get someone in there to be able to make sure it's being mediated.
Yeah, I think it's important sometimes to bring in a third person.
Yeah.
You know, because you won't go as far as you would if it's just the two of you sometimes, you know?
What I find is if you're getting to that point where the name calling is happening or you're blame shifting, and you're not bringing in someone to help you navigate that, you're just not going to get resolved.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's going to happen is that fight becomes more aggressive later. I mean, I remember I got her Fab Five that I call whenever like you
had no problem calling.
Yeah, I would call them. And
honestly,
at the end of the day, they will probably say what I'm trying to say the way that she's gonna listen, and the way that's she's gonna be validated more. It's the way she wants to hear it. You know, the way that's probably gonna help her. I had no problem calling 3 or 4 ladies and be like, "Yo, you guys got to call this woman now." I'm gonna go outside because this is wild. She's wilding.
There was definitely a time for sure. I remember you calling. Someone at 3 a.m. being like,
"Pick this girl up, son. Get her out of here."
I was like out of control. I was like, so mad.
She would just not let me sleep. She didn't
down.
Want to hear. She didn't want to listen. I tried everything to validate it. Okay. She wanted this win, and then she got the win, and she still was like, "No, I'm coming back for more." But you know what, though, I could understand that was a rough time, and we'll share some more details about that another day. I was going through a lot. Not to say that made it right.
No.
Not to say it made it right, but I wasn't in my right mind. And so definitely, I think that's another thing when it comes to like fighting fair. How well do you know your spouse when they're in that mood at that moment? You know, maybe you need to take the L.
Yeah.
You know, take the L. And maybe we'll go back to that later. You know, with a ref, or even if you're like, hey, I know there's plenty of times I think you and I have discussions and we'll be like, I would bring it up on our drive to church or something. Like, hey, you know, the other day, have to be honest, that didn't set well with me. And this is why, A, B, C, and D. And I remember you would be like, you know, you were in a better, we were both in a better place.
Yeah.
And you like truly heard me out, you know, and I think that's what helps. And I think that's why the key to argument is just going through this dance the right way. You know, it's normal. It's healthy as long as you're doing it fair, you know, and at the end of the day, as long as you're like resolving, you know, are you going to sleep happy? Are you guys, whether it's meditating together, praying together, cuddling together, whatever that is, are you guys like at the end of the day at peace? I think a lot of couples out there, you guys are not at peace at the end of the day when you're arguing. You guys enjoy that. I know there was so many times, even in like, I don't want to bring it up, but in past relationships, we were just that toxic. Like that's how we were in love with each other. It was like that codependency is like we needed to at least get one good insult in before the day was over, you know? Yeah. And it would just, you know, next you know, we would have to like, we would make it up by buying each other gifts at the end of the week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like a tie. And you know what's a good place to go get ties? twoties.com. twoties.com. That's the number 2. TIES.com. We have a great line of socks, ties, just for that. occasion where you might need it. Take a look at the good folks at twoties.com. Free shipping, whatever you order. And yeah, man, support the cause. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I did want to touch on what you said before about, past relationships. I think a lot of times being in relationships or seeing relationships where there is a lot of arguing, there is a lot of, not fighting fair, not really coming resolved, or like the dirty fighting that we're talking about, the petty stuff. It's like you bring that into every relationship. If you don't grow out of that stage of being immature and just wanting to hurt. And I think if you're really honest, there is an element to it where it's kind of a high. When you build up that emotion and you're just in a stage of like anger and you're just, vengeful. There's times where I know I felt so angry about something you did or so hurt that it's like, I just needed to get that punch in, like I hit you where it hurts, know?
Right.
And when you come down from that place, you feel like terrible, or you go to places where you're like, you can't take it back. Some of the stuff that you say, some of the places you go, it's really hard to take that back, If I say something that's below the belt, as good as it might have felt in the height of like, I got that dig.
Yeah.
It feels just as bad.
Yeah, I think there's times, I remember there was times that, I can't recall what the argument was. But again, we
it's been a while since we've done anything.
We don't bump like that.
But,
not to say that our marriage is definitely not
Yeah.
perfect. We do, but I felt like we've learned how to really
hold ourselves and control ourselves.
Yeah, and be adult about things,
Yeah.
But I do recall like whenever you would like say something that was like out of bounds or something, I felt like really hurt by that stuff. Like, who are you talking to like that? Did I really deserve that? But I think that's where it's important that you're speaking to each other and communicating correctly.
Right.
Because I think that was my point was like, hey, now I know how to really navigate through some of these things. Now I think now you know how to actually approach me like, okay, how can I get my point across without...
Okay, I went too far.
Yeah.
Let me not go that far again.
Yeah. And there's certain times now I know when I'm coming in the door, I'm like, yo, my bad, honey. I did this, that. But guess, look, I got you a couple of treats on the way. You know what I'm saying? I try to make sure I soften the blow. And you guys are looking for help. Hey, give us a call. Comment. Let us know. I mean, we would definitely love to see how we can help. We've helped some couples along the way. Man, we would love to help you there because there is nothing worse than having
an ugly fight.
And then it's like, guys, if you guys are still arguing and there's no resolve, you guys are not resolved, please give us a shout. Let us talk about it. Sometimes you need to bring that referee in. Right. You need to bring in that outside party that's going to be able to hear both sides and help you guys fight fair.
So what are some good best practices for fighting fair?
I think the first thing is just making sure you're hearing each other.
Yeah.
Making sure that you're pleading your case, if you will, but in a very respectful and sincere way. Not raising your voice, not insulting.
Self-control.
100%, you gotta have that. So I think having that communication, making both sides are talking to each other, let each other know what's going on.
Like you said, it has to be a give and take with everything, and even the Bible talks about, being slow to speak, slow to getting angry. And so I think sometimes, especially where our emotions are high, it's like you kind of miss what the person, you're so focused on defending yourself, or you're so focused on trying to get your point across that you're totally missing what's going on with the other person.
Yeah.
Like, why are they hurt? Why are they feeling a lot? You're just so focused on, I'm feeling a lot.
Yeah.
I need to get that out, instead of putting yourself aside, putting your ego aside and just okay, what have I done to evoke this feeling in them? Whether it's that pain or that anger or whatever, and sometimes it is just staying quiet, that I've had to learn how to do that. Like sometimes, like you said, maybe you just got to take that L or just for a minute, take a pause, and hear them. I think one thing I really appreciate that you did for me in the beginning, before I was really able to flesh out my feelings or identify my emotions, you asked me a lot of questions. You helped me get there, because there was times I was just in my emotions and I had no idea what I was feeling, why I was so angry or why I was so hurt, and you kind of guided me. You would ask me a lot of questions along the way, like, well, how are you feeling? Are you upset? Did I do something? Sometimes it's simple, like, okay, and all I could say is yes or no.
Yeah.
Well, what did I do? And kind of guiding me and like stepping me along the way so I can finally get to a place where I can see, oh, okay, yeah, that did hurt me. And it was when you said this. And so I learned a lot about myself and like what hurt me, but I appreciated you taking the patience and the time to help me get there. And then with more of that, I was able to do that myself. And I can see like, okay, I'm getting triggered because of this, or I'm being hurt because of this, I think the other thing too is not waiting for things to pile up before you bring it up.
Yeah. Right.
Bringing up stuff in the moment. And I think we try to do that,
Yeah.
And it might be awkward sometimes. Like, babe, really upsets me when you leave this here,
Yeah.
But at least it's not like you're not waiting for the 10th time that happens to be like, will you stop leaving that there?
Totally.
So I think those are like to add to what you were saying about the communication.
I think that's awesome. I have to agree with like being humble, and like making sure that you're letting the other person speak, but also like, taking that L, like learning how to let things go.
Another way to avoid things escalating is like picking your battles, but also picking when you battle, right? So if it's like late at night and you guys are tired, like obviously something little can trigger into something big.
Yeah.
That's not even about the fight necessarily. It's just, you're tired or you're hungry or you're just stressed in a stressful situation, Yeah. I think even having kids, there's times where we just like, I'm really worn out and you're really emotionally, tapped out and we just like, we've gone and we fought with the day and the boys and, at work and, the last thing I want to do is get into this right now.
Yeah.
This is not the time to do it. And if I still feel the same way tomorrow, I'll bring it up tomorrow. If it still bothers me, I do need to bring it up.
Yeah.
It's when I bring it up, when we're in a good place to actually share how we really feel and listen to how we really feel. And
a good way to like just to prevent any of that going is like, making sure that you see if your spouse has been struggling.
Yeah.
Or if you can sense that. I think I can sense when high tension there,
You had a rough day at work.
And
or you just need a sandwich. There's sometimes you come home from work. I would literally be like, boys, let's just go in the other room and let you just like, I could just tell, that everything is just getting on your nerves, and I could take it personal, like, but I also realize, okay, it's not.
Yeah,
it's not
I appreciate that.
I just stubbed my toe. Where's my folder? I can't find my phone. Where are my glasses?
The glasses, that's the killer, bro. I hate losing my glasses.
It
drives me insane, folks. I'm glad you're so patient with me. Even to the point where Cash is like making sure I get them before Cash is bringing them to me. My son Cash is bringing them to me before I like start going nuts looking for them. Like, hey, Daddy, here's your glasses. Thanks. It's clutch. Thank you.
In that moment, it wouldn't be the time to bring up like, gosh, what's your problem? Like, chill out. You know what I mean? But maybe later on and be like, are you okay? Is everything, are you ready to talk about what's going on?
Right. If your relationship, if your marriage, if you guys are at that point where you're arguing constantly, you guys need to get help. And get help right away. Because it can lead to such an abusive relationship verbally. And then the last thing you want to do is for it to become physical. Because that's how these things begin. And then at the end of the day, next you know, you could probably be making one of the biggest mistakes or something that you're going to totally regret for the rest of your life. So if you're listening today and you are having these kind of like arguments, if they're getting aggressive, if they're becoming out of control, get help now. You know, call someone, go to a therapist, go to your preacher, go to somebody. But the last thing you want to do, guys, is you need peace in the house. And at the end of the day, making sure that you guys are resolved. I'm talking about there has to be affection there.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of people just don't just apologize and
try to sweep it under the rug.
No, man, that's where you have to grab her by the arm, you know.
Like, I'll be really good.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
really
baby.
good.
Let's go grab some takeout. Don't cook tonight. You know what I'm saying? Let me order some takeout. Let's watch some Netflix and chill. You know what I'm saying? I think that's where it's like you got to make sure that, you know, you really are over with it. And at the end of the day, guys, you know, you really got to make sure that you guys are going to bed to like without a hint of that lingering.
Yeah.
Because it will catch up to you the next day.
It's true. It's true.
But guys, tell us what you think about today's podcast. Listen, marriage is fun. You know, it's supposed to be fun. You should be able to navigate through all the ups and downs. So guys, please, we also love to hear from you. Any comments or any ideas you might want to hear on the next show, let us know. We have a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline. We want to thank you so much for spending time with us and listening.
Thank you so much for watching. Definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like us, comment, share with all your friends. You know, people might need to hear this. You know, might need to hear some practicals on how to fight fair. And you can follow us on Instagram at vic.and.sue. And we're also on Spotify as well. So
let's go. Thank you so much. And until next time, later.
See ya.